Alright, it's an inter-office training video for CEREC. It's Monday the 17th at about, what, 8, 7, 10 till 8, late evening. Alright, so I'm working on a case right now. It's a patient that's got an upper molar. Had a bit of a discrepancy in the design of the crown because of this little artifact. So over on this side, it kind of blends in with the margin, and you can tell this greenish color is the cord that goes around it. Not sure what in the world this is. So the issue comes into place that when you go to design the crown, it folds over into that spot. And the thought process there and goes, is that part of the anatomy? Is that part of like calculus? Is it a part of the tooth? You know, which doesn't look like it is, but just throwing that out there. We don't really have that going on the other side, the adjacent side there, so that's an issue. Anything that shows up red is a problem area, generally. So you don't want red showing up. But looking at that, it doesn't look like it's part of it could be soft tissue, which soft tissue can be displaced, and it's not going to be causing that big of an issue. But when you look at the crown, it's, yeah, this is the way it's going to be milled. So there's a lot of work right there. I was playing with it. Ideally, again, it's soft tissue. It's going to displace it with the crown material. Once you put it in, and by displace it, I mean you're going to put the crown on top, and the tissue is just going to move over to the side and be resting in that place as part of the tissue, the gingiva. But the way that that looks is not ideal. It's late in the evening. This stuff shouldn't be happening, so you can spend more time doing this during the day. But since it's late in the evening, this guy's coming in tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that fly and finish it myself by hand. So it's overly contoured. I've got more material there than I need to. Gonna add more. You can isolate it and add more to it. Just kind of touch the left keyboard and roll your mouse through it. Just kind of rub it on that site, and then it brings more out. Now you can see, you can't tell it by looking at it this way. It looks fine. And then to angle it, which is what you have to learn to do, is angle the crown. Now that's not gonna go. So I'm gonna adjust it. You can use the shaping tool, use a circular. You can use anatomical, but it'll start messing with the entire side of the tooth, so I don't want to mess with that yet. So I'm going to try to get this cone over the area that I need it and bring it down. So I don't have that massive ridge there, and it contours the rest of the tooth. That's crazy. Ooh, look at that. So why that's there goes back to the software and how it looks. When I get rid of it, now I got a massive weld in there. So there's your crown, and you've got this big void and divot. So not really ideal. And if you want to double check it, put the upper back on, and now you can see this massive void looking thing in there, and that should be brought out more because that's really nothing to worry about. So kind of play around with it. You can take that away, add more to it, and just keep going from there. A lot of the times if I get too into it and it just doesn't look right at all, I will just restart. Makes it easier for me anyways. I'm sure there's a better way of going about it. Right now I'm just contouring it. Yeah, I don't want that. Trying to bring it out more. So it looks normal. That looks a little better. And you get these voids. Yeah, see, this is kind of getting out of hand, so I'm going to start over. Don't save it. Go back to the restoration as it was. I'm going to find the patient again. So the purpose of the video is that anybody that's watching this, when you see the headaches that I got to go through, figuring this out, and again, we've only been using this for about a month. These are the steps that I'm taking. If we figure out later there's a better way of doing it, that's, of course, we'll make that a new protocol. Go back to the patient, double click on the picture. This is what I do, and then it'll load up. Once it loads up, then I can play with it some more and try it again. It'll give you the initial proposal that it starts you out with. Alright, so now I'm back to square one again. Margins didn't change. I'm not going to mess with the margins, because we know the margin was fine. We already tried this before, but the margin was too thin, so there wasn't enough reduction to put the crown on it to make it minimal thickness. Minimal thickness on a zirconia crown. A2 zirconia, we're using katana blocks, the STMLs, is a 1. So you need 1 millimeter circumference all the way around. So if this isn't reduced enough, you can't do minimal thickness. So that's what the problem was with this case. So now that that's been done, I can design it differently, but because of that artifact that's there, it's causing me a major issue. So this is on the top. Make sure when you're looking at this stuff, you look at it the way you need to. Alright, so that's my upper jaw. I'm going to get rid of that. When you have two opposing teeth, you don't want red or yellow anywhere in there. You want a small amount of green. For this system, at this office, at this machine. Might be different from any other location, but for us, this is how this has to be in order for it to have the proper contacts. From what I'm told, it varies from office to office. So you hold down the mouse pad. You can kind of see the mouse pad right here. So I put one hand on the mouse pad, my left, while it's on the mouse pad, press down, and I just lightly click on it and move it. It's almost like a paintbrush. You got to feather it. So the first thing I do is get rid of the yellow and the red. Just keep clicking it, getting rid of it. And while you're doing this, getting rid of the red, you got to remember over here on the cursor details, it says thickness. Wherever that cursor arrow is at, that tells you the thickness. So this is a 1.59. So we're getting close to the minimal thickness allowance. So you don't want to go lower than 1. Doesn't need to be any thicker. You just want to make it look like a crown. Get rid of some of this green. You want to move it real fast, you press and hold it. You can always adjust the strength and the size over here. This is where I've left it. I can play around with it. I've gotten used to it this way. So keep moving, go down to this. Can't see it very well, open it up some, make it bigger. I usually touch the screen, it makes it faster for me anyways. So keep feathering around, get rid of the green, get rid of the green. I usually get rid of all this stuff, and then I start over and add it later. So I can refine where I want the green to be. Let's see, so I'm gonna go back to this, I want a lot more contouring happening. So I'm gonna bring up my size of the area that I want to increase. Press the left side, and then I'm gonna bring it down. So this is actually getting rid of it. So when you start adding color to it, you're adding contacts. You're adding more material to the tooth. So hold the left side down, push your finger up. Now I can kind of design where I want it. So that's massive. And it goes back to what you're doing. So that might be too strong now that I've got it where it's at. I like the contacts up here, a little bit higher up in the interproximal. A bit of green like this doesn't have to be a certain shape, doesn't have to be in a certain location. It just works out better for us when I put them a little higher up on the tooth. That's just one side. And of course when you look at this, this is where your opposing tooth is. Your contacts where the tooth is touching is there on that side. So now I got to work on the other side. And when I go to the other side, there's our original problem. So, okay, so that's that. Angle it, always angle it. Want to make sure it's not all funky and you don't have some massive flag of material hanging out. So that looks the way it was before. I'm not going to mess with that. The green is exactly what I need. Blue is good, that's little to no contact. And then you got light blue and it keeps growing up from green to yellow to red. You don't want red anywhere in there except for the contacts. Now interproximals, this is in between the teeth. That's where you want the green to look, when it's in between teeth. There's another module, another video that'll show you if you have a tooth like a number 2 and there's nothing adjacent to it and it's hanging out by itself, then you'll need to put a little bit of red in there just to give it some contact, but we'll save that for a different video. So this video right now is just specifically focusing on posterior teeth with the CEREC Prime Scan with contacts interproximal. Now contact point